So I wrote a different sermon towards the beginning of the week. And I was waiting for the end of the week and to hear who was being released and what was happening and to be sure that the ceasefire would hold before finishing that sermon. And then at about 3 o'clock yesterday, 3:30, I decided to write a different sermon. Because sometimes what strikes you at that last hour before Shabbat is significant. And I hope that these words resonate with you as they did with me. I have a playlist on my computer. I have many playlists on my computer. I have for the Chagim, I have for Shabbat, I have all sorts of things. And that's the music I listen to when we're in the kitchen cooking in the hustle and bustle before Shabbat. So my Shabbat playlist has anything that makes me think of Shabbat. Some of it's liturgical, some of it's silly. And depending on how the week goes, the music that comes from the speaker there will bring up feelings and emotions. And this year, we were running around, as Fridays always are a little crazy. And the first song that came on as I was waiting to hear the names of the women who would be released today was Eli by Aviva Chernik, who is one of our local artists and an amazing talent and a kind, kind soul. And the song, which I wish I knew better because I would sing it for you, repeats Eli, my God, over and over in Aviva's beautiful voice. And it's haunting, and it's stress relieving, and it's wonderful in that moment to hear her voice pleading with God. And it was exactly what I needed in that moment as I kept checking the Times of Israel live blog. Do we have a list? Do we have names? Have we heard anything? What's going on? But I will say my computer's shuffle feature is not prophetic, and it does not know exactly what I need all the time. And though the first song started out amazingly, the second song was from Monty Python's Life of Brian, and it was always look on the bright side of life. And aside from the mental and emotional whiplash of that moment, I thought, all right, maybe it does know actually better what I need than I do. And this song was followed by Happy by Pharrell Williams, which if you've seen the movie, Despicable Me, you know that song. And again, I went from here to a completely different place. And I thought, that's been my week. It's been crying out to God, and it's been happy, and it's been trying to hold on to that optimism in the darkest moments of life. And it's been scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through social media just for news. And I don't normally do that. I don't live on my phone and my devices. I much rather have a meeting in person than on the phone or with Zoom. But this past week, I've been living on my phone. The moment Shabbat was over, I turned on my phone. I went to Minyan at Beth on Sunday morning because a friend asked me to come. He was finishing his year of Kaddish, and he said, please come and be with me. And so I went, and as I was davening, I kept looking in my bag, because I had my phone, again, to the live blog from Times of Israel. Are they back yet? Are they back yet? Have they entered Israeli space? Have we crossed the border? And so I kept waiting for that moment that Romy and Emily and Daron crossed the border, and they were home. Then move on to Monday. Monday morning, I started my day. My daughter, who works at Starbucks in Washington, D.C., called me to say, I'm running late for work. The buses aren't moving. Why? It was the inauguration day. It was also Martin Luther King Day. I don't watch the inauguration. I never have. I'm honestly not that interested. The important stuff will be on the news later. But it was also Martin Luther King Day, and every year I listen to speeches by Martin Luther King. Reverend King was an amazing orator, and I listened to two of his speeches. I started with the I have been to the mountaintop speech, and then I finished with I have a dream. I have been to the mountaintop was delivered the day before his assassination. And in it, he asked God for moments in life, could he visit them? And he moves through history, and I just want to share some of his words, because he says them better than I could. Reverend King said, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live just a few years in the second half of the 20th century, I will be happy. Now that's a strange statement to make because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick, trouble is in the land, confusion all around. That's a strange statement, but I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men, in some strange way, are responding. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same: we want to be free. And he ends that speech with, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I just want to do God's will, and he's allowed me to go up to that mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land, and I may not get there with you, but I want you to know that tonight, that we as a people will get to the promised land, and I am happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And this week, scrolling through the news, knowing I'm not going to find anything, and doing it anyway, punctuated by these moments of optimism and joy and the moments in between, liturgically and communally, we are on that mountaintop. We were not freed from bondage overnight. It takes a long time. And through it, there are moments when we cry out to God. There are moments when we will look on the bright side of life, and there are moments when we will be happy. Because we, like Moshe, like Reverend King, are standing on the mountaintop looking out at our country here in Canada, our country in Israel. In the words of Reverend King, the world is messed up. But I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. We are watching the promise of peace, the promise of democracy in Israel, in the United States, as we have a peaceful change of administration. Here in Canada, as we are going to come upon a new election, and we will see again a peaceful change of administration here, whichever party is elected. Regardless of where any of us may be on that spectrum, we can appreciate that we are blessed to live in a democratic nation. We have the longest demilitarized international border, and we will continue to have peace with the country to our south. And we live in a world with a democratic state of Israel. God promises Israel, והוצאתי אתכם מתחת סבלות מצרים, והצלתי אתכם מעבודתם, וגאלתי אתכם, ולקחתי אתכם לי לעם, והבאתי אתכם אל הארץ. I will bring you out from the burdens of Egypt. I will save you from slavery. I will redeem you, and I will take you to be my people, and I will bring you to the land. It won't happen overnight. There'll be a lot more scrolling, but I hope that when we look up from that scrolling, we'll see the divine light of the stars. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.